You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about Propagandhi. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, award-winning broadcaster, television host, radio host, podcast host, member of the Order of Canada, fellow Montreal Canadiens fan, good friend and former hockey teammate of mine.
That's
George
right.
Stroumboulopoulos.
Hey, how's it going, guys? How are you?
Great, George. It's great to have you here, George. We've been, wanting to have you on the podcast for a long time, and you and Steve go way back. So I'm going to let him kick this off here. But we are delighted to have you here to chat about Propagandhi with us for a bit.
Happy to.
So you're in LA right now, right?
I'm in LA right now. I was just in Toronto. I'm heading back to Vancouver. Where are you now?
I'm in Hamilton now.
You're in Hamilton. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm in LA at the moment. I came down here. I do a series for Apple Music called Up Next Canada, where we introduce people in 165 countries around the world, and we highlight an up and coming Canadian artist. So I came down here to do those interviews. Have a couple of them this week. None of them have been in punk, by the way. I don't pick the artists, even though I like them. None of them have been in punk. It's a little bit more poppy or genres like that. But that's what I've been doing down here.
How's the what's the general being in LA right now? What's the general kind of like sentiment happening in LA with everything kind of going on? Because like we're not there, so but we see kind of everything happening. So what's that like?
It's a tale of two cities in that all this wealth, all this good stuff exists in so many neighborhoods around here, and all this pain and heartbreak and oppression exists at the exact same time in neighborhoods. So one of the reasons I came to LA when I was 18. I drove here in 1989. I was 17 in 89. I came to LA, and one of the reasons why I think I'm drawn to a city like Los Angeles is because you cannot miss what's really happening in the world when you're in LA. This is where the income inequality gap is enormous here. You see it. So you honestly will be in a neighborhood, driving in a neighborhood. This happens all the time. You're driving in a neighborhood and you're like, holy shit, this is the LA that you see in the movies. This is that. This is this. Look at all this money. Look at all. And then 20 minutes later, the streets are fucking burning, and ICE agents are rushing people and cops are all over the place. And we had to drive over. I was coming back to the airport. I live like right downtown in the Arts District, and I couldn't get to my place because the cops had closed everything off. So I had to convince my Uber driver to drive over pylons and around barricades to get home. But it's fucking Hollywood. So Steven Spielberg's here. It's the craziest kind of, every city has its thing, but the extremities of the thing here are really intense. It's really intense. Like I don't just mean the extremes, but the extremities. You have at the one end you have the ocean, at the other end you have the canyon and the mountains. It's all really beautiful. And then you get downtown and you go, holy shit. And then you go to Hollywood, and Hollywood has the classic things you see, but also the poverty is overwhelming. The abandonment, the relationship with the police here is so problematic. You have all of this stuff happening in one city all the time, and we're so normalized to it. It's so normalized. No, this is like, it's horrible to even think this, but this is what's happened to me. Well, I guess I've always been this way. But you're driving down the street and then there's an enormous tragedy on the road, and there's nothing you can do. The person's already dead, and then you just, okay, I guess we're detouring now, and you just signal and you turn right, and then you pull into a grocery store and you get your food, and it's just, everything's so normalized in a city like this. And I've been so privileged to travel around the world and see really experience a lot of intense realities. As for day-to-day living, LA is bizarre. It's bizarre.
I think back to I can't remember what year, maybe it was 2015, but when we just finished shooting in Calgary, we did that Culture Days show in Calgary, and then we were both in LA at the same time. And normally when I'm in LA, I stick around like West Hollywood and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I remember you picked me up and we went you took me to downtown LA for my first time. We went to that Dias de la Muertes Mariachi El Bronx show
That
in
was
the
so
park
great.
down there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. That's very close to where I live. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just remember that, and like, because I'd never really like ventured outside of West Hollywood. So I remember when when you picked me up, I was like, oh, I'm going into uncharted territory here,
Yeah.
and you remember you talked about you had this grocery store that you or this like Armenian grocery store or restaurant that you hung out and talked to this gentleman
Oh
and
yeah,
just like
it's on yeah, it's in East Hollywood, and it's a place where you'd play backgammon, smoke cigars, or smoke a hookah, and they would just pull out like plastic banquet chairs, and we'd all sit around. And you know what it is? That's a really important place for me because a lot of my friends in LA are from elsewhere. We're all from Canada. So it was just a nice place for a bunch of grown-ups to sort of sit down and talk. And the people, it's very, very, I'm ethnic and my friends are all ethnics. We don't know, I know white people, but like I don't, most of the people who are my friends here are ethnics. And the, this city's got some really cool stuff there. And Armenians and Greeks, we can vibe in LA. It's the Greeks and Italians and Armenians kind of find common ground, which is kind of fun to say. And yeah, that's right. That was a fun show, by the way. That was a fun
no,
show. The thing
it,
about LA is that you can live in five different neighborhoods for 5 years each, and in 25 years you'll have never lived in the same city twice. It's just so different depending on where you live.
yeah, no, that's awesome. And if I want, I can want to transition back to how most of our listeners, like we have a lot of Canadian listenership, we have a lot of international listenership, but our Canadian listeners specifically, they're going to know you most from your time at Much Music
Hmm.
and Much Loud
Hmm.
and like Much Loud. And I've never told you this before, but Much Loud, like you played a pivotal part in changing my life for the better because one day I was probably 17 at the time. I had Much Loud on and I discovered what from watching Much Loud, my favorite band of all time,
Hmm.
which is Blind Guardian.
I remember playing those videos. Wow, that's your favorite band of all time?
All time now because
Awesome.
so you played the Mirror Mirror video,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which changed my life when I saw
Oh
that
my
video.
God, I love that.
And and from that day forward, I became obsessed with them. And like we've like our podcast is about Propagandhi. Last year
Mhm.
I took Greg to a Blind Guardian show and we did a full Blind Guardian episode.
Amazing, amazing. Well, the
So
thing about Propagandhi fans is we are so intense about the band we love, but I think what we really love too is the energy
yeah.
and fighting. And also, I'm sort of fascinated with this idea. Well, first of all, I'm really happy to hear that. And I remember playing those videos. And what I loved about Loud, well, what I loved about my time at Much Music was when they offered me the job to work there, they first asked me why I wanted to work there. And I said, I don't, they offered me this job. And I said, they offered me the new music. And when they convinced me to do that, I said, I will on one condition, which is I get to host Loud because Loud didn't have a host. And I said, if you let me program the videos and make the metal show and then ultimately create the punk show, we'll let you do that. And if you let me do that, I'll do it. And they said, no problem. And they never once got in the way of the videos we played on Loud, never once, or the punk show. We just did whatever we wanted.
So how did the transition to the punk show wind up happening? Because like Loud was successful for
Yeah,
years before the punk show came
yeah,
up, and
yeah,
I remember when the punk show launched because Musique Plus had their own. They had Un Deux Trois Punk hosted
yeah,
by Regin Laplanche, which was
right.
awesome, and I used to watch that all the time as well. So how did the transition for the to the punk show come in from Loud?
So it wasn't even a transition. What it was I was hosting Loud, and Loud was never going to go away, and I was never going to give up Loud.
Yeah.
But I walked into the boss's office one day, and I said, "Hey, I want to rebrand part of it. I want to create a punk show as well. I want to have Loud and a punk show because I think that I was one of those kids, and there wasn't a lot of us. I mean, so that's not true. There was a bunch of us. The Misfits and Suicidal Tendencies played a really big role in this for us, and also TSOL, which is if you liked metal." And you liked punk, they were two very different worlds. But three or four bands helped get us into the middle. So guys like me liked metal and liked punk. And I always think to myself how metal made me realize I was going to be okay. And then punk made me want to make sure that you were okay. And I wasn't going to give up on either of these two genres, right? So I just felt like I was playing punk videos and hardcore videos on loud, but I wanted to create more space for punk so I could leave the metal space for metal, right? And I thought that was really important because I know that there are some dudes who didn't want to, and women who didn't want too much of that. And I couldn't play a Blind Guardian video if I wanted to squeeze in, you know, a punk band from whatever. So I wanted to create that extra space. So I just walked in and said I want to do this, and then the boss went, yeah, whatever, no problem. And that was it. And that was it. And so that's how I ended up having the two shows.
Man,
Nice.
that's awesome.
Well, George, I've wanted to have you on this podcast for a long time, for 5 years, but the time has to be right for stuff like this. And recently, in Propagandhi's new album release for At Peace, I caught you in the comments where you said that Propagandhi is Canada's greatest export. And
For sure, like 100%.
I want to know more about that because, like, you can't really elaborate on social media and stuff like that. So tell me
Yeah.
what prompted that comment about Propagandhi being the greatest export of Canada.
I don't know if you remember, but when I was on Much Music, I wore Propagandhi shirts all the time. I wore them all the time because I believe, because unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because my life would be easier if it wasn't this way, but I don't separate politics from music. I don't separate politics from art. I don't separate politics from anything in my life, except for maybe sports. That's the one place where I can watch hockey and I don't think too much about the world. But music to me is, and again, I don't know how old I was, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old when I heard Alice Cooper and then heard the Sex Pistols. And the Sex Pistols really, really reached me on a profound level. But only one record, and the not counting the Swindle, but only one record, and there's an energy in the Pistols that I loved, but it's like, what do I do with that? And that's when the Clash came into my life. And then that's when Crass came into my life. And because I'm the kind of guy that wants to opt out, not opt in. And even though the majority of my career has been spent trying to get people in the mainstream to look in the margins, I'm a margins guy. I'm alternative, right? For sure. And and so Pistols leads me to Clash, the Clash leads me to Crass. And I know DOA were really important to me as a kid. DOA are really good. I listened to Dayglow Abortions as a kid for sure, a ton, and Forgotten Rebels. So the punk bands in Canada, Teenage Head, I was listening to punk bands that were coming from Canada. But when Propagandhi came out, especially the second record, where I just kind of went, oh, oh, we're ferocious as a country. I was just with Fat Mike not that long ago in Vegas, and at the punk, I was hosting a thing for them at the Punk Rock Museum, and he said that like Propagandhi changed Fat Records and changed NoFX. Like he built their entire, as you guys already, of course, know this. He built that entire sound around what Prop are doing. So when I first heard Propagandhi because of the punk, but also because it was fucking heavy. And now they're even heavier, which is what I really like. Because the older we all get, the gnarlier they get. Um, I I just went, this is it. This is what this country's, to me, this is what I want. A big, strong, tough fucking dudes who are also really progressive, really open, trying to use their strengths to make the world a better place, taking really aggressive sounds and fighting for people rather than punching down, which is what a lot of big bands do. And they don't punch down intentionally. They just don't realize that they make it about them. And Prop is never, is never really abandoned it. And then when Today's Empires came out, I thought this record is perfect. I liked all the other ones. I like Less Talk, of course, and How to Clean, but Today's Empires really pushed it further for me as in my love for this band. And a lot of my friends, like we bought Oliver Propaganda because they're not a big band mainstream, but
Yeah.
the ones who know,
Oh,
like they
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Sami Zayn, the great wrestler.
Yeah.
One of the things we bonded over was our love of Propaganda.
Yeah.
He
I
he's
mean,
he's
he
been on the
was
show.
he was
Yep.
on the podcast. He was on
Yep.
our Adventures in Zoocosis episode, and it was such a great interview, and such a great time. And I
Oh,
just
I love
love that
it.
you say that. Like the people who know. And Sami Zayn, you like it's great to hear these stories.
Also, when this is what happens throughout history, which is people, and this is going to say, I'm being sort of glib and sort of joking, but only sort of. When the when the world burns as it does, and it always has, but it's particularly hot right now. We've got all these wars facing us, all this injustice, genocide. We have all this stuff facing us. They're very real things. And as the United States is going through what they're going through, as Canada is going through what it's going through, I hear a lot of people say to me, "What happened? How did this? What? How did this? What?" And I say this to my friends. It's like, well, what were you listening to? Because all the bands I was listening to were telling me that this was the case.
Yeah,
So to me, what's happening in the United States now, I think this version of the US today is exactly who they've always been.
I agree. I live in
All
the U.S. I grew up in
Yeah,
Missouri, in the middle of the country. This is to me, this is what I expect.
this is it. I've been in LA. I got to New York in '89, the East Village, and I got to LA in '89. And I looked around and went, yeah, this is America. There are amazing people in here fighting to make it better. And I think that's the key. So I don't worry about, I focus on on the work being done on the grassroots level. But also I listen to the kinds of bands, specifically Propagandhi, who has been telling us about this forever,
Yeah.
forever. So yeah, I think they're the great export of the country for sure. I mean, I know we do it. We have water and other things too that are, I guess, important. But Neil Young and Propagandhi to me are they're like two of the greatest things Canada's ever done.
I'd
Yeah.
like to toss the Montreal Canadiens into that conversation.
Also, the Montreal Canadiens. That is true. That is very true.
You mentioned less talk, but going back to do you remember the very first time that you ever heard Propagandhi and time and place situationally? Were you in Toronto? Were you in LA? Like, do you remember what the very first Propagandhi song you ever heard was?
I can't 100% say the very first time because you mixtapes and tapes and stuff and maximum
Yeah.
rock and roll, so I don't remember. But I feel like, I mean, I heard Anti Manifesto. Like I heard How to Clean right away. I was 21 years old when that record came out, 22. So I remember that. But I think the first time that I really, really dove into it was, and we thought nation states were a bad idea, like off Less Talk. That to me, um, because especially if you grew up, I'm a lot older than you guys. Growing up in Reagan, Mulrooney, Thatcher's 80s, um, and the corporate kind of culture and how corporate culture was really profiteering and especially off of like the public and public stuff. So to me, and we thought nation states were a bad idea was the one that I think I really connected to lyrically. Anti-Manifesto was good. I like Dead Kennedys, so I liked how that record sounded, but I feel like they just hit another vibe on Less Talk for me. Um, so maybe that's the one that I think I first connected to.
And was
Excellent.
it were you was it like through a friend that you found it or through tapes or like do you because like
Tapes.
I tapes? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But also, you know what it is? Maximum rock and roll. So we used to get that Maximum rock and roll zine when we were kids. It was hard to find in Toronto. But a lot of that I heard. Now, by this point, I'm in my early, I think, when did that come out? 94? Was that 94? So I was like, yeah, 21, 22 years old at the time. I was working in radio. So I was doing sports radio at the time. No, no, actually, it's not true. I was in college. Uh, I had just come out of college. I was working in sports radio, but I also had a music show. I would fill in on a community radio station, and I'm from the era where the more obscure the song you can play, the better. That I don't want to play stuff that people know. Obviously, in my career, I've had to depending on the show, you have to adjust that because most people want to hear the same things over and over again. But when I was at this college radio station, so you'd go to the libraries and you'd find all these songs, and I knew about Propagandhi. So, oh, the new Propagandhi comes out. I would take the vinyl. So I think on that one, I found the vinyl in the college radio station's library when it was just submitted, and I played it on vinyl on the radio station. So that might have been where I first heard that. Clean everything. There's like how to clean everything. That I would have heard on a tape. That I
Okay.
would have heard on tape. But Let's Talk, that record, it would have been just a fucking independent vinyl,
Man, an
that showed up.
original pressing of Less Talk just sitting in the it was a Humber radio station.
No, this would have been. I was filling. I was on Humber, but I was filling in at a radio station called CHRY at York University, and there was a woman
Okay.
called Georgia Sow who's kind of a legend in Toronto. What guys like me, she's a legend. And Georgia had a show called The Aftermath, and I met her at a bar, and she knew I liked music, and so she said, "Why don't you fill in on my show?" So I would go in on her show, and I would pull out vinyl and play stuff. And I didn't even go to that university. It was just 105.5. So I would just fill in whenever she was away. And that's where the vinyl. And back in those days, the radio, you get original pressing, and but there would be like a hole punched in
The-
the
yeah.
corner and a stamp on the back. And so a lot of my discovery of that stuff was, so and so would call, oh, have you heard this song? I got this record, and they would mail it into you, and then you would take it to the radio station, and you would play. So I was alternating from playing off of CDs and playing off of records. My first few years in radio, it was all records and CDs.
Oh, that's
Got it.
amazing.
George, how many times have you seen Propagandhi live? I'm curious if you have any cool stories of seeing them live or interacting with them professionally, personally, whatever. Anything involving live performances.
Um, the last time I saw them was a few years ago. They played on a boat in New York.
Hmm.
And they played on a boat, and it was really awesome because they would say the boat took us around the Statue of Liberty as they were just hammering their message, which I fucking loved. Um, first time I saw them, and first time I interviewed them specifically with George was when we were all getting tear gassed at the Summit of the Americas protests in Quebec City. So we were in what was supposed to be a green zone proper there, and we had run down, and the stormtroopers, the cops, had rushed some of the protesters. Tear gas was flying all over the place, and we were underneath a bridge under in the quote unquote green zone, which the police didn't respect. And that's where I first met them and first saw them. And I mean, Jello Biafra was there, Avi Lewis was there. It was a really fucking epic introduction to Prop the Men, was with tear gas flying during the Summit of the Americas. I've seen them a lot. I've seen them a lot live, but funny, not as much because they didn't come to Toronto all the time, and I've been traveling and working, but I've seen them a bunch for sure.
Excellent. That's a pretty sweet that's a pretty sweet photo. Do you remember what year that was?
Thomas, Summit of the Americas was 2000 or 2001.
Okay. So it was
Yeah,
like
2000. Yeah.
just around the Empire's time.
They
It
must have been
was,
on
yeah,
the Empire's tour because I saw them on the Empire's tour. I believe it was 2001 at Barrymore's in Ottawa.
right.
In So it must have been just after that.
Well, and I don't even think, yeah, I don't even think that this was part of the tour. Let me see. Some of the Americas, Quebec City. Let me just double check. It was pre 9/11. I know that. Uh, April 20, April 2001.
Oh
April
wow.
2001. So that's when that was. What a night. Oh my God. But there's footage somewhere at Much Music of me under the bridge with Jord, and we got mics, and our eyes are burning from the tear gas that was being thrown all day. It's pretty great. It was pretty great.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, the I'm just looking back here at the Ottawa concert for today's Empires. It was 2001. What's the date of it? I think it was March 2001. The
Wow.
Barrymore.
There you go.
I'm gonna try and track down some of that footage too. I'm gonna scour YouTube and see if I can come up with anything from back in the day.
Yeah. I've got
April
pictures of me. I've
16th.
got April 16th. Wow. I've
April
got pictures
16th,
of me
2001, yeah.
and Jello Biafra with our, being interviewed while you can see this shit hammering in the background. It was pretty
If
great.
you happen to be like sitting around later, scrolling around, and you find any cool pictures or anything like that, feel free to
Yeah.
send it my way. No obligation, but I'm just saying if you do have something cool that you want to show us, I'm always open to seeing neat stuff like that I've never seen
Yeah.
before.
I don't think I mean, the prop stuff would have been, remember, this is pre-camera phones, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we didn't have, so the only footage I have from with Propagandhi would have been on video that was aired on Much Music. But The let me see if I can find this picture of the summit to show you. It's kind of
That is
great.
so funny. I love it.
Yeah, I got the tear
I
gas.
just love the most random stuff like that too. As somebody who has been making this podcast for like 5 years now, um, the obscure things that I haven't been able to talk about on the show yet, I love it when
Yeah.
stuff like that pops up because Summit of the Americas has never been mentioned on this show a single time.
This is what's so interesting to me is that the Summit of the Americas is a pivotal moment in Canada. You know, the G7 meetings happening now are happening in Kanaskas. Part of the reason they're happening there is because they want to put it in a place permanently where this could never happen again.
Mm,
They didn't want Quebec City to happen again. So they've made it impossible for people to engage in protest and be, and you see what's happening in the world right now. Everybody who gets protested gets labeled in a terrible way. Uh, the fucking conservatives who talk about free speech but they don't believe in liberty. They don't believe in free speech at all. They believe in oppression, and you know how you know it because when anybody disagrees with them, they shut them down. And there are people on the left, by the way, who do the same thing. You know, who shut down conversation and to me, and this is where I think the way I approach punk rock is a little bit different than some of my other friends, is because I come from TSOL. So we are I'm direct line from TSOL and suicidal tendencies. So while my punk has to be political, it also has to be free. It has to be about independence. And I didn't reject the organization of my neighborhood culture, like the culture of the government and all that, just so I can be enveloped by another set of rules, right? I don't want that, and so I engage in a social contract. So I'm happy to do that, but I want my punk rock to be fucking ferocious, and I want my protest to be ferocious, and maybe that's why I like punk. That's maybe why I like prop so much. Maybe it's why I think the Summit of the Americas is so important, and you knew it was important because they shut it down. They moved it. You know, they moved it so we couldn't be a part of it anymore. I'm listening to you, but I'm just scrolling through to find this picture for you because it's pretty great. It's a pretty great picture. Um, but anyway, yeah. So the Summit of the Americas was crucial at that time. Oh, look at this. There's a picture of me and Joe Strummer. Found
oh,
that.
sweet.
You
Very
know.
sweet.
Man, man,
Oh,
look at
here's.
you in that picture.
Oh, I know.
I miss that hair. You got to go back to that hair.
This is running away in the getting fucking tear gassed in Quebec
Wow.
City.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look, and then Noam Chomsky. There you go. You know.
Very
But yeah,
good.
so I'm a really big, I'm glad that some of the Americas came up because that's the first time that I met them.
Oh, that's unreal. That what a story.
Hmm.
Uh, when you were talking about discovering, you mentioned nation states and anti manifesto.
Yeah.
One thing that I think a lot of people that listen to the show would be interested in is what if you had to pick your top three favorite Propagandhi songs, what would they be and why those three songs?
You know how everybody now, white people, know about the word colonization and all that stuff. You know how like it's people who are oppressed know it for sure, but now in Canada they talk a lot about that. If you think about nation states and you think about that line, bury our hands in the pockets of these neo-colonials, that wasn't people weren't doing that. People weren't doing that in music that was reaching young white kids and kids of all ethnicities, but young white kids who who were feeling or something inside them that didn't know what that thing was or how to articulate it or what to do with the anger and what to do with the energy. When you poured over the liner notes and you read the lyrics and you come across that line, right? Like that's a monumental moment for somebody who's ready for it and open for it. So that one is a big one for me. Uh, Maybe the prop song I played the most on the radio was Back to the Motor League. Back to the Motor League, I that's probably my favorite Propagandhi song. I think also because it's so brutal.
Yeah. The guy means
So
business in that song, man.
yeah. I think that is a really, really gnarly thing. Because I think another part of punk rock to me, he's got that line about chicken conformists in that.
Yeah.
And I'm and I grew up thinking conformity was death. You know, I've learned over time that sometimes you do have to play along and conform. I get it. You know, I didn't want to wear a mask during COVID, but I did it because someone said the best science tells us wear a mask. Okay, fine. My old self would never have done that. my 12-year-old self would never have listened to the government, right? But I realized as I got older, hey, sometimes maybe you gotta take the best advice. So I get that. But so back to the Motor League was a fucking brutal, brutal song that I loved a lot. Um, yeah, that's the one I'm thinking. So those two are my two favorites. I'm trying to think of my third favorite. I mean, there's so many that I dig. I have to be honest with you. I think supporting cast is one of their best records, and Victory Lap. Holy shit, Victory Lap is so great. But maybe supporting cast of the title track. Maybe that one.
That's my that's my favorite ever Chris Hanna song is
Is it?
supporting
Yeah,
cast the title track ever.
yeah. And that comes later in the run. But I got to say that Victory Lap record, I listened to a ton when it came out. I think when I saw them on the boat, it was on the Victory Lap run. Let me just take a look at the song here. Failed States, I dig totally too.
Every
Yeah,
one of them is so wonderful, obviously.
yeah. I think Comply Resist. I really like. Like
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, it's like anyway. So that's yeah. So I think supporting cast and Victory Lap are really amazing records. I like the new one a lot. I love it. I'm in the midst of going through it and listening to it more and more. So it hasn't all baked into me yet, for sure.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
Um,
we're not doing episodes on the new record for quite a while yet because it has to become a part of you before I feel like I can talk about it with any sort of meaning and depth that will
Yeah,
sustain over time. Like we just did an episode on with friends like these who the fuck needs COINTELPRO,
yeah, yeah,
which is a 24-year-old song at this
yeah,
point,
for
but like,
sure.
we need to talk about it now. So we're waiting until the new record kind of seeps in a little bit as well
You
before
know what
we
else is a great
do that.
song too? I'm glad you're doing that. Is Off Failed States is Unscripted Moments. I think that is. I think there's a kind of sweetness in that song that I
Hmm.
don't normally hear, and so I like that as well. But yeah, I couldn't talk too much about the new record. I mean, except I like it.
Yeah.
It's not baked into me at the moment.
Yeah. Makes
um,
sense.
I've got a follow-up question. You absolutely do not need to answer this in any
Okay.
way, but as someone who as someone who did work at Hockey Night in Canada for a period in time, not long, I think it was right around the time when Dear Coach's Corner came out that you
Oh
were
yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
How did
I
that hit as as you were at Hockey Night in Canada?
don't think anybody at Hockey Night in Canada had any idea that. Honestly, it's such a. Uh, I could do a whole series on that experience and this particular part of it. Right, what they were talking about in that song. I played that song when I was hosting Hockey Night in Canada. I was still doing my Strombo show. I
Yeah.
played that song on my Strombo show while I was hosting Hockey Night in Canada. I think what they said was really important. I think what they said is really important. That's also maybe the most impactful Propagandhi song for me in a
For
way.
the way
You
it
know?
resonated with Canadians
Yeah,
is like we all grew up watching Hockey Night in Canada, right? Like every one
yeah.
of us. Like it's what you did on Saturday night.
I think that sports guys in sports media are not all, but an awful lot of them are very disconnected from the responsibility. They, and this is not a criticism. Well, of course, it's a criticism, but it's not a knock in that because what I'm suggesting here is what I want it to be, not what they want it to be, and it's not my role to impose on them what they should get out of their career. But the here's my provocative statement: when cable sports people run network sports, they miss the whole point of why network sports is more important than cable sports. Network sports is not so much about the sport as much as it's about the culture. And Hockey Night in Canada is about the culture. The game is important. The analysis is important, but it's more than that. It's more than that. And when I got to Hockey Night in Canada, even though there were lots of the the old guard still there. It was ostensibly run by cable sports guys, ostensibly, and cable sports guys don't think about things like we think about. They think about it when it hits their doorstep and they get mad about a thing, but they don't think about this kind of thing. So when I heard Dear Coach's Corner, I was like, oh shit, here we go. I know Ron, I know Don. I've
Yeah,
known Don. I've known Don
like
since I was 21 years old. I knew Don long before I knew Ron. So, oh, by the way, Don Cherry is also been one of the nicest, best guys I've ever worked with, and was incredible to me. And I didn't agree with a lot of his politics. I abhorred some of them. Uh, in fact, I agreed with very few of his politics, but I knew Don's intention. And Don Cherry also is a marketing genius, and he understands how to get himself over. It's very wrestling, right? Very wrestling. So, but I would go into the room and look at Don and be like, dude, come on, that thing, when I was the host. And I watched other people just go, because no one really wanted to tell Don what to do, right? Don respected me. He respected my career. I respected his career. So we could have some discussions. But also, no one's going to control Don Cherry, right? No
oh,
one's going to control Don Cherry.
like
Um,
I remember when we were both at CBC, this was got to be like 2011,
right.
and I was
Oh, did
doing
I
a
lose you? Did you get muted?
me? No? Can you hear me?
Now I got you. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I remember it was around 2011. We were both at CBC, and I think we were doing the upfronts or something. And I was working with Dawn,
Hmm.
and they told me I had to get Dawn through hair and makeup. And Dawn was like, "I'm not doing this."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And like it was very much a I'm working with Don and I'm politely suggesting he do things,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
does what Don does what Don wants.
Don does what Don does. I think a lot of the criticism Don got for his views are valid criticisms, because everybody, that you can do that. But I think people don't realize Don's like a great guy. Don's a really generous, really good guy. And um, but again, he said stuff on the show that I abhorred for sure. But I would tell him that. He knows that. He knows that. We have very different views of what the world should be and what Canada should be and how people should be treated. But I'm not knocking Don as a person by any means. So when that song came out, I think also the thing I liked about Dear Coach's Corner was that it wasn't so much an attack as it was actually a request,
Hmm.
right? It felt like a request to me, which is it can be better than this. And I think it was showing that, we like hockey too, man. We like sports too. And then punk, and then a lot of the music world, certainly in North America, when I was growing up, the sports world and the music world were disconnected. They were very disconnected. One of the things I loved about Prop is they love hockey, and I love hockey. And a lot of my punk friends are like, "Ah, fuck sports," which I get it, but I love hockey and I love motorcycle racing and I love sports. So Propagandhi loving sports was like, yeah, we're allowed to love it. And I think they're fucking Leaf fans, right? I think Chris is a Leaf fan.
Oh,
And I'm a Habs fan, so we would troll each other from time to time about it. But I thought Dear Coach's Corner was a great tune. And I think it's a very, again, all these guys who talk about, it's usually conservatives and neoliberals who talk about how important it is, liberty, freedom of speech, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is freedom of speech. This is freedom of expression. This is somebody asking you have a bigger responsibility when you're on the public broadcaster. A lot of people I worked with, by the way, do not agree with that point of view, do not agree with me at all. There's a reason I don't host Hockey Night in Canada anymore. And I was told very directly from bosses, you need to be more conservative in your real life and maybe less music. I was actually told that.
that's
And I
insane.
just, I was like, go fuck yourself. I'm not doing that. I'm not fucking doing that. That's crazy. That's not why they hired me to do a thing and to grow it. And when they hired me, the ratings were going up with people under 30 and with women. I was growing the sport. That was my job. But the but then the guy who hired me left, and he left me in the hands of somebody else who I just was never gonna see eye to eye on. And I was just like, nah, I'm not interested in this vibe, you know?
It's funny that you mentioned like the crossover between like music and sports because there's so much more integration between. And like you brought up wrestling and Sammy earlier, this week AEW ran their Grand Slam in Mexico City at Arena Mexico, and Brody King, who's the front man for the band God's Hate. I don't know if you know
Hmm.
them.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they're based in Van Nuys. He came out, opened his vest. He was wearing an Abolish ICE shirt on national TV this Wednesday night.
Amazing, amazing. I love that. You know what's also crazy to me is what a bunch of cucks the UFC fighters have turned into being. Honestly, fucking John Jones handing the belt to Trump, that's the most bend the knee fucking cuck move ever. And I'm looking at these guys going, yeah, sure, you can beat me up in a street fight, but my God, you're soft. You know, God, you're soft. I love the fact that Sammy is Sammy. I love the fact that that t-shirt was worn at a wrestling event. Like, how is it that wrestling is, and even though wrestling is filled with its cucks too, but how is it wrestling has got two moments like that where NFL cucks, if, a quarterback is fucking banned because he made a political statement that was based on fact. Like that's the thing that bugs me about sports. The one thing is that the athletes, the whole one of the things I was when I was working at Hockey Night, there was a GM on there who said that one of the lines that was really important in hockey culture was fit in or fuck off. And I looked at them and I went, yeah, that's a bullshit. That's how you want to be because you guys are all, cucks. Right? I think, and I know that's a phrase that people hate to hear, but that's why I say it because I think it's
It's
funny.
it's a
But
it's a
it's true.
pop it's a popular sentiment. Like it's pretty much the motto of the CFL.
It's like, come on, guys. It's like I thought we're supposed to be tough individual men. What are you doing? Like you're gonna bend the knee for the president? Shut up. Shut up. I just don't respect it because I just don't respect it. This like blind loyalty to your leadership. I don't respect it. Especially when you spend the previous 4 years attacking governments and attacking institutions. But that's the thing about all the people who criticize these institutions is they're actually all institutionalists. They just don't like it when other people have a seat at the table for the most part, you know? And I've always loved the fact that Propagandhi loved hockey because why does it have to be a shitty culture? Why does it have to be a culture where when women are attacked, the whole everybody comes around and protects the players like some weird thin blue line thing, right? Like, don't you think people shouldn't be attacked by a gang of players? It happens in every sport, it happens in every aspect of culture. But the way hockey culture and sports culture, GM culture protects bad behavior, I think that's shit. I think it's shit, and I think it's got to change. And those are the same people who attack Hollywood for being a place that does bad things, but then they cover up their own favorite sports, their favorite athlete or their favorite team who does bad things. Like the New Orleans Saints PR department working on behalf of the Catholic Church in New Orleans to help spin some of the sex abuse stuff. What? You don't care about pedophiles. You don't care about pedophiles because you protect pedophiles, right? You don't care about pedophiles. You just don't like it when the pedophile also happens to be an actor. That's the problem. So like one of the great things about being a TSOL and Misfits fan and all that is that I just don't have time for I don't have time for the hypocrisy. Pick a side, but be on that side.
Speaking of Misfits, did you go to the Coachella shows?
No, I didn't go to Coachella this year, but I saw the Misfits, the Danzig lineup. I've seen them live before, and wow.
Steve and I
Great.
were both at the Madison Square Garden show in
Oh,
2019.
Yeah.
oh, nice. I saw them on that tour at the Forum in LA. Wow, what a show.
Yeah, I
Not
did
a bad song the
MSG.
whole night.
I did MSG and Philly. I did both of those.
Oh
It
my
was
God, I
awesome.
love it. Love it so much. Yeah, the fits are, I mean, I have a 138. I don't think I have a one. I don't know what arm it's on, but I think I have a 138 tattoo right there. You know,
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I see it.
yeah. So, I mean, the fits were humongous to me. And again, because it bridged punk and metal. It bridged punk and metal and horror movies um and performance. And I think, Danzig being, like the Demon Elvis, that whole thing. I really, yeah, I loved and still love the Misfits.
What before we wrap up, like I don't want to keep you. I know you're
No, I got
literally the
time.
busiest dude I know.
No,
So,
no, no, no. Keep going. Keep going. Let's keep going. Yeah. I got Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine coming over to my house for an interview. So that's I'm just setting up the stuff,
See if
the
he's a
cameras.
Propagandhi fan.
Oh, I'll ask him. I'm sure he is.
How could he not be? Tom
Yeah, I'm
Morello,
sure
come
he
on the
is.
podcast.
I'm
yeah,
sure he is. I'm
we would
sure he
love to
is.
have him on the show if you can maybe hook that up for us.
I'll talk to him and see what he says, you
Give
know?
him my email address. Tom Morello, hit me up.
Yeah.
Uh, so just what are you vibing with right now, music wise? Give me what you're listening to.
I'm listening to the new Cryptopsy record.
It's
Yes.
good.
I really like that record. The last Spectral Wounds record. I'm really liking that. I'm listening to a lot of metal, the heavy shit right now. Uh, uh, Beluga. There's a Scottish guy, softer, like folky or singer songwriter guy, called Beluga. Here right now, I was just playing it. Um, what's it called? The last record was really good. Beluga Lagoon, I think it's called. No, no, is it Beluga Lagoon? No, definitely not that song. Wow, that's fucking shit. Um, it's is it Beluga Lagoon? No, this here, yeah, this is a good song. The Tombs of the Fairies, Beluga Lagoon. I like. It's very So I dig that.
Okay.
But mostly I'm listening to. Uh, I've kind of gone back to my Sun phase. So I've been listening to Sun a lot. The do you remember? Do you know much about the band Sun? Have you listened to much?
Oh yeah.
I've
Yeah.
heard him. I'm not like a hugely well known fan though.
But like 20 years ago, they put a record called Black One, which is really kind of like droning. I really like that. But yeah, lately it's been Cryptopsy, a punk band from Canada and LA called Mermaid Island. I listen to pop a lot. I like pop. If I want to put on a song that just makes me feel good, it's pop. Uh, I pretty much follow everything Laura Jane Grace does in her career, so I'm a big Against Me guy. Last night, weirdly, I put on Rancid again, and I just really dig those first two Rancid records like so much. But Cryptopsy's new album is my daily listen.
Nice.
Uh,
Yeah,
Have you heard the new Weapon X demo too?
Weapon X. No, let me look it up here. Do you know what I've heard?
It's
Have you listened to the Black Mountain Death Metal Choir? Not Black Mountain. Yeah, Black Mountain, Black Metal Death Mountain, Death Choir, whatever it's called.
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude, it's hold on a second.
I'm adding
Uh,
it to my Apple Music. Black
It's
metal
called
death.
it's called. They put out a demo. Um, they're part of this thing called like the Black Metal or the Death Metal Black Metal Anti-Fascist League,
Oh yeah.
which is really important. I think we need
Yeah,
that.
like Panopticon's a great anti-fascist black metal band as well.
We just need more of that. It's one of the things about being a metal fan, and especially a really heavy metal fan, is you're
Yeah.
not exactly sure what the politics are of the people that you
It's really
like.
tough. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
tough, and
yeah,
there's a lot of cool people out there kind of vetting these bands to make sure that you're not supporting stuff that is like absolutely vile as well. But you
yeah.
got to look it up.
You have to
uh,
look it up. You know who else I really love and I listen to all the time? They put out an album last year called "Cometh the Storm," which is High on Fire.
Oh
oh
So
yeah,
yeah.
they're
I
great.
like High on Fire a lot. I saw them play at the Danforth Music Hall in Toronto. It's one of the loudest
Yeah.
concerts I've ever been to in my life. I'm definitely re-entering my heavy doom kind of phase, and I think I just plug my guitar into my Earthquaker pedals and just fucking see what I can get, see what I can get out of it. But hold on,
Yeah.
Blood
There's
Mountain Black Metal. What's Yeah, the X
That's
Weapon. Yeah, Weapon. Yeah.
they're a straight edge
You.
band from Louisville with members of Knocked Loose.
Oh wow. How do we feel
So
about
it's
that? Do we like that?
what Knocked Loose.
Yeah. Do we like Knock News? What's the
Uh,
verdict on?
they're hardcore guys through and through. I'm okay with them.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't really listen to them. I mean, this Weapon X demo though, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's a 10 out of 10,
Really?
George. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if it's a 10. So the Blood Mountain Black Metal Choir put out a record called Demo One. I think last year, or yeah, last end of last year, beginning of this year. Fuck, I listen to that record a lot, like a lot. Um, big time,
George,
big time.
I also just put something in the chat for you. It's a band called Goya from Phoenix, Arizona, and they have a brand new
Okay.
record out called In the Dawn of November. And since you're really into
Okay.
Doom right now, this is an
Yeah.
awesome new Doom record that I'm
Uh,
listening to that you'll really like. I sent it to Chris Hanna from Propaganda, and he's like, wow, that opening tone
yeah.
on that bass, it
Let me
gripped
hear
him.
it. Here we go. I'm
So
playing it now. In the dawn of November, let's hear how this kicks.
yeah, put it on because it's awesome.
Oh my God.
Fast forward a little bit too, get to the vocals because he can really belt it. They just played Bovine Sex Club in Toronto too.
You hear the way the fucking bass and guitar, like the fucking bend on that? That is so thick. Holy shit. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, they're from Phoenix.
Love,
So
thank you.
check out this record because it's an awesome record. It's only six
I,
songs and it's like 40 minutes, so it's awesome stuff.
I love it. I love it. At work, I listen to all kinds of music because I'm programming different, and I don't play metal show. So I play metal on my show, but not very much. And punk, I play some punk, but we are in 165 countries. It's on a station called Apple Music Hits. So it's not a specific metal show. So I have to be very careful, how I program it. If I played a little bit of Spectral Wounds the other day, which I love, but and Cryptopsy too. But this is the stuff that I share on my socials all the time and most people can't wrap their heads around. I try to be really, the way I conduct my conversations and I live my life. And then what are you listening to? And I play them this, and they just go, "What?" And yeah, this is what I go to sleep to, listening to this kind of music. I go to sleep listening to like Electric Wizard and I love everything King Gizzard puts out too, by the way. So that's another. The other band that I listen to all the time, partly because I love it and partly because I support them, is Kneecap. So I listen to Kneecap a lot these days. And
Nice.
I've interviewed them a couple times. I love that band. So definitely Kneecap Life.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Do you have any other projects that you have going on right now that you want to kind of plug?
I've got a new sports thing coming, which is connected to music as well. I can't say exactly what it is, but it's coming. Um, God, I've like tried a couple little food companies. I'm working on a new media project, a new show. I'm doing a thing celebrating Canadian storytellers, where I'll be traveling across the country doing that. And then uh, I'm working on a possible thing to get men of a certain age to start to get interested in talking to people about their health, physical and mental health. So I'm working on that project as well. Yeah, I got a lot of things on the go. I feel so privileged to be in a headspace where my creativity and my desire to make things is as high as it's ever been, maybe higher. And I never lost the fire to do this. And so right now I've got like seven different things that I'm working on. So basically, where I'm sitting here talking to you, I sit here and I just jump from project to project to project. And I'm writing a book too. I'm also writing a book, but it's fiction about the end of democracy. So so yeah, there's like a million different projects that I'm going. And then I have a book club with Apple Books called Strombo's Lit. So we interview authors and we talk about the books and we just try to get people connected to reading um, long form.
Dude, can I show you something real quick?
Yeah, yeah.
Look at
Oh my
this.
God, dude.
This
When
is
did you
my this is my 22 interviews that I've done with Chris Hanna, Todd Kowalski, John K. Sampson, Beeve, Sue Lin, and Jord over the course of the last 5 years. And there's color photographs inside, and it's a fully edited interviews collection. And it comes out September 12th. And I just wanted to show you because I'm like really super duper proud of it.
Congratulations. That is so great.
Thank you very much.
Oh
It's
my God,
so,
that is so great.
and as you
We
know,
have
books are not easy to make.
No, they're super hard to make. But you know what? They're an artifact, and they're really important to make.
That's why I wanted to make this. Like, this is such a niche thing. It's an interviews collection from a podcast, but it's also 22 interviews with members of Propagandhi taking place across
Yeah,
a half a decade
yeah,
during COVID and reopening up to At Peace. So it's like a snapshot of a time period of me just hanging out with my favorite band. And so that's why I wanted to make it because it's just like making the intangible, a bunch of MP3 files on the internet, something tangible, just a
yeah.
little thing to remember it by.
There's
And
lessons to be great. That's great, man. So congratulations. That's so
Thank
cool.
you. Really
George,
appreciate it.
if you happen to be in Toronto on September 13th during the Propagandhi Canadian tour, we have a book release event happening at Emissions Records.
I am I'm in Toronto that week. I might have to be in Vancouver on the 13th, but I'm working on something else that will keep me there up until the morning of the 13th, I think. So if I'm there, that would be
I
great.
mean, I think Propagandhi are playing on the 12th at night, so
They
They
are.
are.
They are.
Please
Um,
go. I'll be there.
yeah, I'm trying to get Propaganda to play a concert in my living room to do a House of Strombo.
oh,
Dude.
I've been
Yes.
I've been talking to them about it, and they taking it to the band. We'll see if they'll do it. We'll see if they'll do
Your
it. But
your House of Strombo episode with Fucked Up was like one of my favorite things I've ever seen.
that was so fun. That was so fun. I'm
So
glad.
good.
Thank you. We're about to release the vinyl of the audio from the Alexis on Fire one. So that's going to
Awesome.
be a
oh
special
wow.
one coming out. Yeah. Yeah, that's
My
the plan.
favorite my favorite House of Strombo is the Blue Rodeo one.
God, they make me cry every time. I
I'm
love it.
I'm like Lost Together is like one of the most beautiful.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Are you kidding? It's like it's incredible. It's so
I
special.
I think they are criminally underrated as a Canadian band, as a band in general, but and they absolutely deserve far more flowers than they get.
Yes. I think that I said this, and they actually used a clip of it in their doc, but when I was in my 20s and 30, I like Blue Rodeo. Like I liked them, you know. I got to my 40s and I don't know what I would do without them. There's something about what they pulled off, and I think as I got older, there's a beauty and a strength in them that is really, really game changing for me. I think Jim Cuddy has played my living room more than anybody, more than any other artist. Yeah,
And like
goddamn, I love that band.
and like Jim used to play hockey with us.
That's right. I remember the day Jim came over to my house just to watch John Prine play a concert, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah, but God, I love Propaganda. So if I don't know if they'll do it. I was this close to getting refused to play. They almost did
Oh,
it. You know, I'm also trying to get Anthrax to do it, so we'll see if that happens. You know,
well, the next one you get, I'm gonna hit you up. I need
yeah,
to come to that.
it's an easy drive from Hamilton. And are you in Greg? Are you in Michigan?
Buffalo, New York.
Oh, you're in Buffalo, New York. Well, that's easy for you to come up to then.
Super easy. Yep.
Yeah,
I love living on the border because I can do all the stuff in St. Catharines, Hamilton, Toronto. It's
Yeah,
so easy for me. London, Guelph, it's all easy.
it's so close. I had my first Genesee beer at 11 years old in Buffalo, New York.
I'm not surprised. That's pretty much what we
Yeah,
do here.
we had family who lived there. We had an aunt who lived there, so we would always go visit. Yeah.
oh, that's amazing. And we'll let you go because obviously Tom Morello is far more important than us.
Well, Tom's
Um,
coming in on Monday, so I'm just
oh,
building the
okay,
studio for
okay,
him.
okay.
I'm just building the studio. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, we won't keep you. We'll let you go. But thank you so much for coming on the show. Like I said, I've wanted to reach out to you, but I was like, I haven't talked to George in a long time. I didn't feel right reaching out to you to get you to come
No,
on, but I'm happy that it finally worked out. And
no, I'm happy to do it.
I promise I won't be
Oh,
as much of a stranger over the next 10 years.
yeah, that's totally cool. I appreciate it, and I hope that was good. I hope we covered enough ground for you.
We had a blast, man. This is
You
like
know,
I love these like organic things where we just kind of hang out and chat and so many topics. I'm really just kind of loving the fact that the conversation went in so many different directions because it was just kind of more of a hangout that now our
yeah,
listeners get to kind of join us on. You know what I mean? Instead of some super structured thing that
yeah,
Greg just runs the show on. I love it.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm glad. I'm glad. I like that. That's my favorite kind of conversation to have, and I think that I love that you do this, and I've listened to it because I think they are. I was not joking when I said they're like my favorite Canadian band.
I know.
They're the band, man.
I saw that comment. And I was like, now is the time to have George on the podcast. Let's do this. And
Nice.
I try to time these things well so that I don't waste people's time. You know what I mean?
Dude, the amount of money I spent um, ordering from G7 Welcoming Committee
Yeah,
when I was on Much Music, like I still have. I mean, half my propaganda stuff doesn't fit me anymore. But my they just sent me they sent me the record and they sent me some T-shirts, but they were very generous. They thought I was much smaller than I am, so they they won't fit. But I gave them away to people, and I just think they're fucking. I mean, it especially in with Johnny Rotten's politics being fucked up, and I look at all these people that I grew up. Part of the reason I am the way I am is because of this tutelage of these men, and I just am so fucking glad that Propagandhi got better as people.
yeah.
You
It's
know?
such a bummer when someone turn like I'm a big Cro-Mags guy,
Yeah, I'm a huge Chromax guy.
and that is heartbreaking
Well,
what's
but
going
wait,
on.
it's like, but like John Joseph, his only thing was about the vaccine, right?
He's turned
He moved to
he's
Florida.
he's he's moved to Florida. He's like getting involved in like anti-immigration stuff now too, and it's
Oh,
like
is he? Oh, that's a bummer. I don't know.
it's a
I like John Joseph, man. Fuck, that band's huge to me.
We had
I
Paris
didn't know he
Mayhew
was
on the
doing.
podcast.
Oh, right on, right on.
Yeah. It
Oh
was
God.
awesome too.
I think a big reason why I'm into this stuff too is because of the Bad Brains. So hearing
yeah.
the Bad Brains, made me think that hardcore and Fugazi. I went hung out with Ian at the place at the Discord house, and uh, Fugazi, Minor Threat Fugazi that's the Propagandhi line for me. Like that's the also the direct descendants. So whereas TSOL pushed me in one way, they gave me enough lift to get onto the Ian Mackay train, and you get on that Ian Mackay train, it takes you right through fucking Propagandhi, And I, yeah, I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for them.
I mean, I think that we can all like so many of us, our lives were impacted in such an important way from propaganda. Like my first episode on the show, I talked about, I wouldn't be the person I am today without discovering Less Talk More Rock and Earth
Yeah,
Crisis Firestorm at the same
right.
time. And
Oh
like
shit,
that
straight edge, some old school straight edge right there.
that shaped everything of who
Yeah.
I am as a person, like I've been straight edge my whole life, and I'm 45 years old, and it's just such an impact, and propaganda introduced, like you said, like political music to so many kids who had zero exposure to any of this, and it changed so many people's lives.
If you think about, because when I was making the punk show, you think about the early 2000s, you have uh you have George Bush, you have Rock Against Bush, you have the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq are happening. In It was a time when Canada felt very different than the United States, and then it got much closer again until now. And the think about the big pop punk videos that were being played on music video channels back in the day. Really good bands, Blink, all the really good bands. Um, Green Day comes out with American Idiot. Uh, just before that, Prop, right, puts out Today's Empires. So if you're watching the punk show or you're listening to punk music, or you go to the record store, buy a CD of a punk band, and there's the right woman behind the counter, right person behind the counter who says, "Oh, you like this," and hands that kid a Propagandhi record, right? They're interested in punk. Now they've been connected to punk that's about more than let's just go have a good time. It is a complete mind shifting moment for people when you're really impressionable. And I think so much about how easy it would have been for me to go down the wrong, because I was listening to a lot of fucking metal and hair metal, and I like all heavy music, right? I like all heavy music, even the heavy music like hair metal. I liked it because there were great melodies and there were more women at the shows. So when I'm 16 years old, that's important. So I liked big loud guitars, and but I never lost my way because it was The Clash, and it was Crass, and it was MC5, and it was, and then you go through this kind of weird period in the 80s where it's pretty much only Minor Threat, Black Flag, and then Prop. And then that carries you forward. So you have these things these rocks you can stand on So you can still have fun and listen to not everything has to be a fucking dissertation, but you can listen to stuff that keeps you at your core. And if you're a kid who has energy to burn, you can use that energy to either light up a place or burn a place down. And bands like Propagandhi helped me figure out how to use my energy and my fire to light the place up, to know what to burn down, but not to burn everything down. And they're just one of those bands that if you listen to them enough, you're a different person. You're just a different person. And if we spend all this time talking about how music matters, then fucking prove it. Then prove it. If it just makes you feel better and it gets you through the night, that has value. That for sure has value. But if it doesn't change you, does it matter? And Propagandhi is one of those bands that changed people and put them on a path to be more inclusive, to be kinder, to be progressive, to to be a voice for the voiceless, and then to know how to hand that microphone you have to the voiceless so they can be their own voice. And you don't have to speak on behalf of them. You can just be there to support them. And they did all this getting heavier and more brutal. And that to me is the great gift of Propagandhi, is that it softened your heart while it fucking hardened your fists. And goddamn, what else do I want out of a band? You know, what else do I want from a band than that? Soften my heart and harden my fists. I'm just so grateful that, and the fact that they're ours, you know?
Perfectly said.
Yeah, you know?
Man, I think you provided the ultimate closing remark right there in softening your heart and hardening your fists. That was exactly the perfect ending to this conversation.
No, I'm glad.
And thank you so much again for coming on the show. And honestly, it was awesome getting to see you again. It's been a while, so
It's been a long time. I appreciate you guys having me on. And again, sorry for the delay.
George, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot, man. Thank you.
Anytime. I'll talk to you. Is yours book for sale now? You can pre-order it?
Yeah, I'll send you a link. I'll email it to you.
Yeah, send me a link. I want to buy it.
Cheers, man. Thank you
All right,
so
cool.
much for that. I appreciate
Thanks, guys.
it.
Anytime.
Bye, George.
See you,
buddy.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.